Last year I had set some goals for 2023, which ended up actually making me feel quite down and like overwhelmed at the beginning of the new year last year. And I think it's because I had seen so much online about like goals and ambitions for the next year, and everyone setting all of these like fitness, work, financial goals, and so I had kind of thought that would be a beneficial thing to do, like set myself things for 2023. And what I had found was that I had actually set myself goals which had contingencies on things like time and money and other things that I just have no control over, such as like the lifestyle I currently have with a 2-year-old and full-time work and all of that type of stuff. I was almost setting myself goals that in a sense were setting me up for a failure. So this year I wanted to set some goals for myself, but I wanted to change the way in which I do them. And I feel like now we're gonna see just how we did last year, so much around goals for 2024 and what everyone is planning and what people want to achieve. And something about it I just find demotivating or overwhelming in a sense. So I wanted to set some that hopefully align with maybe how you're feeling. If you felt like me last year, these are maybe kind of like will resonate with you in the way in which I've done them, if that makes sense. So I have chosen 5 goals, and none of these are tied to me needing more time in my day-to-day life, needing more money in my day-to-day life. They're not even tied to me having to invest, like, you know, in anything in myself. It's purely around behavioural things that I can do day in and day out, which I think will have positive impact. They're quite, well, not necessarily lofty, but they're a lot softer. They're not around a specific milestone. I've not put a time limit on anything. I've not said I want to have this much in savings or this much for a new job or this much. Like, I've kept it completely around stuff that I feel like I can actually have an impact of and a control of as a normal person who just goes to work and has family life, which is busy enough. The first goal I have is something that I've wanted to like improve about myself for so long, and it's something that I've really struggled to do. So I want to like buckle in on this year and really learn and research and try and understand it a bit better. And that is to articulate myself better, to articulate myself a lot more clearly, to essentially use fewer words to say more. And I'm hoping exercises such as speaking to a camera, editing myself back and stuff might actually help with this as well. The reasons why I want to do this is because in my career I've basically been told and reviewed, and when I've had lead reviews and stuff, that I can soften what I'm saying by saying too many words. It's kind of like I should just say what I need to say as a sentence, and instead I'm waffling a little bit more, and it's almost like I'm talking my own point down a little bit. And the other way in which I think I struggle with articulation, or how I make it a bit of a negative, is by, how can I put this, like in a meeting sometimes I find myself not having a very clear train of thought, and so when I'm speaking I'm actually saying multiple points within a couple of sentences, so the person speaking back to me doesn't really know which point to pick up on. Whereas I can write very well and very clearly. I did English literature at uni and like I loved it. I can write so well and, you know, say a lot in a little and be very critical and piercing with my words. Not that I want to be in a negative way, but I can be very clear. When I'm speaking though, I think like I'm doing it now, I naturally will speak as I think. And I want to really learn how I can improve that and really understand how I can formulate a better sentence before I have to say it. And I don't know why I can't do this at 27 years old. I don't know if anyone else is like this, but yeah, I think I've always thought it was just normal to kind of speak in that way. But when I've noticed people, you know, do really well in careers or in very high positions, and just really strong communicators, both in and outside of work, like really strong communicators, they're so clear and they're so able to say what they mean. They're not trying to figure it out. They are even able to say, like, you know, I think there's 2 points I want to bring up here. The first being da 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 da. the second. Like, they literally frame what they say, and I know that that's a tactic I can do, but I don't have the thinking the thinking that comes first to decipher whether there's 2 or 3 points to what I'm trying to say. It's like I'm speaking as I'm thinking it through, and it's something I really want to like understand, learn more about, and really be able to articulate myself well. I think it will serve me so well, again, personal life and in career. Like, that clear articulation, I swear I just want to nail it down in 2024. So that's my first one. Okay, my second one is kind of closely linked, and again, this is more in a career sense, I suppose, as well, but that is to demonstrate critical thinking while I'm having a conversation, like while I'm in that communication. And I've noticed people able to do this, again, when they're very strong in their role, they're really strong communicators. And I found with myself, I'm very good with critical thinking, but not live. Like, so I can say, for instance, come away from a meeting or come away from an encounter, think on it, and then have a different viewpoint. However, I've seen people be really, really strong at taking in that information, taking in what someone says, and being able to have a very sound, critical, not analysis, but a response that doesn't just agree. And I think in my past, I've maybe been seen as like a people pleaser, or like I'm very agreeable, I don't necessarily go up against anything. Not that going up against anything is bad. I think it's brilliant if when you're both working towards a common goal, it's actually very needed. That's how you bring your value. The reason why I think I don't do that very well, and so I seem very agreeable, is because I haven't been able to harness and to like work on that live critical thinking as I'm listening to what someone says. I almost have a default of taking in that information and seeing their perspective and like seeing the sense, rather than almost thinking objectively or yeah, just thinking critically and kind of challenging it in a healthy way. And I think that would be how I would be able to bring my viewpoint, bring my perspective, and bring my value. Essentially, it kind of increase, you know, not every conversation needs to be a critical thinking one by any means, but just the ability to like actually do that within the conversation, rather than, you know, that meeting I had on Tuesday, like I'm sure when they said this, like that would be a better way of doing it. Like I can have it, but it's delayed. And I would love to be able to kind of not just be washed over by what someone says at the time. I would love to be able to kind of stay true to my own way of thinking while I hear them. I don't know if anyone else has a similar experience to this, or like has found this out with themselves. But yeah, I notice that with myself sometimes. So yeah, that like live critical thinking, I don't know a better way of putting it. Maybe someone who has researched into this or knows more about this can like explain more in the comments. If you can, please do, or point me towards anything that might help that I can read and stuff, because I find it so interesting how I see people do this so smoothly and so naturally and so well, that the conversation actually ends up being of immense value, because you end up coming out of it with a strong result. Whereas I think I have this tendency to like I say, see a person's point of view and agree at the time, and then have my critical thinking after the fact. And I would love to just engage in that way on the spot. I think I would do a lot better if I could do that. So I feel like those two were mainly the most like career type of ones, and now I'm going into the last three, which can work for career but have come from more of like personal growth. And basically the third one that I really want to kind of do this year is to take in more, to like take in more information and to build up my interests that bit more. And I feel like this is partly because I am a full-time working parent, I have a 2.5-year-old, and honestly I feel like for the past 2 years I've been on output mode. Like I go to work and I'm like, you know, I'm just on output mode, like fully. I'm like delivering as a parent and doing everything that's needed, and then doing this, and like the overstimulation of every single day can just be a lot. But every single day my focus and my priority is always on what I'm doing and what I'm delivering on and what I'm like putting out. You know, like you just churn out work at work, and then you churn out parenting as when you come home, and housework and all of this. And I want to just give myself either a bit of time each day or a day each week where my sole focus, other than parenting, because obviously that's 24/7, but more of my focus is on taking things in rather than putting things out. And I think what that's going to do is make what I do share and what I do, you know, churn out for work and, you know, put online and all of that stuff be of better quality. And what I've noticed is that I've gone from being an English literature uni student to being spat out into a pandemic, and then having time and having lots of, you know, I would read all the time. I would take in so much information, everything like that. And now, like, even when I would go online when I was in university and stuff, it was all around like learning. I was on like online journals and this, and I was taking in information in a very stimulating way. Now at the end of the day, I will go online and it's for like a numbing sensation more than a stimulant. Like, I want to just watch something that just calms my mind rather than supplies it with anything. And I feel like if I keep going in that way, how can my output be of any quality if I'm not putting anything in? Like, and I want to increase that a lot more. I feel like my confidence is also slightly dipped because, you know, I've gone from, like I say, studying, where all of my time was to just take in information and it was to study, and I really thrived in that and I loved it. I thought it was such a luxury to get to study, to now being, you know, you've gone through sleep deprivation with a child. I've gone through like trying to get a job, then trying to get a new job, and like moving house, and everything has just been not, you know, it's not been in this thriving environment. I feel like I've been on survival. And so it's that kind of switch that I feel like I can make in 2024. Nothing abrupt, with no hard goal put to it. All it is to just take in more and to build an interest in more, you know. And whether that's just doing it super achievably, like while I'm hoovering, I can have my AirPods in and listen to an audiobook or a podcast, or, you know, and discover more like that. Okay, the fourth goal that I have for 2024 is the one that kind of links with the way in which I set my goals for 2023 and how they were incredibly wrong for the way I think. And basically, a goal for 2024 for me is to find a way of planning out what I want to have happen for us in the next year, the next few years. Like, what are we actually aiming for? What does our idea of contentment look like? What are our, you know, like, what are our goals as a family and stuff? Like, we have so many ideas, but I don't know how to plan it out, if that makes any sort of sense. Like, you know, even take for instance wanting to get the garden done and then maybe a kitchen extension one day. I have no idea how I actually plan out, like, when we do that, how much that sits as a priority for us, or does going on holiday sit as more of a priority, or, you know, there's so many things in our life at the moment, you know, holidays, wedding, house decorating, new jobs down the line, like where we want to be. I just haven't figured out how we both come together and plan for that ahead, and how we kind of make a bit of a logical sense to some dreams and ambitions that we both have together. So to be able to actually plan for what I'd like to achieve and plan for our future in a way that doesn't first off overwhelm me, make me discontent in the present, or kind of make it feel too disconnected from what I actually want in life. Like, I want to actually just be able to sit back and try and understand what's the plan here. Like, why am I wanting to climb in this job? Why am I wanting to maybe, you know, what are we wanting to prioritize? Is it a kitchen extension, or is it like luxury holiday? Is it this, or is it this? Is it getting the garden done, or is it having our wedding? Like, we can't do it all in the next 2-5 years. So like, what do these priorities look like for us? What kind of lifestyle do we want to have? I feel like the past couple of years we've just had a lifestyle that we've had to have, and now we're in the position of being able to like get out of that and start to be like, okay, what do we want to have? How do we want life to look? Which is an incredible position to be in, but I just have no idea how you conceptualize that, like how you plan for it. And I see people do it so well, and I see people say, you know, one day we want to retire and have like this property out in nowhere and we're gonna go here, or like want to move up to Scotland, or I want a holiday home or whatever. And then a few years down the line they do it, and it's not just been by magic. They've planned for it and they've kept that as a priority for them and all of that. For me personally, I feel like I can just be a bit scattergun, and I can get ahead of myself, and I can want a lot of stuff, not material stuff, but I love the look of very different lifestyles and I don't know what mine is. I don't know what my contentment looks like. I don't know what my level of enough, like that's enough, I'm happy, like, do you know what I mean? I don't know what that looks like. So I feel like it's kind of just learning that this year. Again, this is no set goal, this is no anything, it's learning how we as a family plan for like what our lifestyle will look like, what we want it to, you know. That's a very lofty lofty goal, but that's something that's been on my mind lately. Final goal of 2024, and this is like a one that spans everything as well, and to put it simply, it is to basically get better at and learn more about how I can make other people feel more valued. And the reason why I wanted to focus in on this in 2024 is because I think I've taken in a lot of information and I've seen a lot around that kind of singular viewpoint of building yourself up, you know, particularly as a woman, like growing in confidence, being confident to take up space, being confident to voice your opinion and to speak up. And like, I feel like I've built confidence and I've got there, and I'm very content, you know, other than articulating myself and all of the couple of things I mentioned. But like a shift I really want to have is less of thinking of that inward thinking of me, and more thinking of how I make other people in the room I'm in, wherever it is and whatever situation it's in, to feel more valued, because I think that's so powerful. And I truly do think that some of the best people I've ever seen like achieve and do well in whatever capacity well looks for them have a very strong ability to make other people feel like they matter to them, and you know, they probably truly do. And if I'm just being completely honest about myself, I look back at the past 2 years and I think I've just survived as like a first-time parent, pregnant in a pandemic, no money, debt, needing to get a job. And I think I've just had such a like a narrow viewpoint of like, but I was in like survival mode, do you know what I mean, instead of thinking less selfishly. And that's something I want to do in 2024, is to, because I genuinely think that matters so much. Like, don't get me wrong, personal growth, all of that type of stuff, being self-aware, wanting to grow and be able to, like I said, take up more space, all of that type of stuff is huge. But I do want to like take in more and learn more about the flip side of that, and that is the focus of the other people in your life, the focus of the other people in the room, and how you have such a like power to make them feel like you care. And I think that's huge, and I think that lasts, and I think it's so impactful. And I know I'm being very vague here, is because it can span career, it can span personal life, and it can also relate to online, right? Like if I do well at this, it's because I've built a connection with people somehow through a screen. And to actually make people feel valued, honestly, I think is huge. And I would love to see more about that in 2024 and to learn more about it, like less of that like how you are as a person and learn about me, and the focus is on me. I want the focus to be on like how I interact with others and how I, yeah, like make sure, you know, I do so bad to keep in touch with friends. I do so bad to keep in touch with family. It's bloody hard. Like I'm not putting value, I'm not putting priority on these things that in years to come, I bet you I wish I did over the past 2 years, and I want to stop that. Like I want it to be top priority as much as possible. Like it should be, you know, it's so important. Like very, very highly skilled people do that very well, and I think it's something that I don't actually see talked about a lot online. You know, and I think, yeah, I've just heard people say amazing things about people who have, you know, they may be CEOs or MDs or all of this type of stuff, and you know, they'll say like, you know, we just sit down and they ask how the kids are, and we sit down and they actually remembered what I said to them 6 months ago in one meeting that they probably had 10 that day or something, you know. And it's like that ability I would love to learn about, and I would love to just put as at the front of my mind more. Those are my 5 very broad and lofty goals for 2024. If you think of any similar goals, if you have any that are quite similar to that, or if you have a similar approach to setting your goals this year to me, please let me know and comment below. I would love to chat with you around this. I think you know, it's challenging to set your goals in the best way for you and how you think, but I feel like this year I've hopefully nailed not overwhelming myself, not setting myself anything too unrealistic, and hopefully I get a lot of like growth out of this year with these 5 goals. So yeah, let me know what yours are as well, and I'll see you in my next video.